Welcome to Bleav in Colts, where Lawrence Owen and Jackson brings you everything about the shoe.
Hey, Colts Nation, it's Lawrence Owen with Jackson back with you again for the Week 4 post game for the Miami Dolphins. What a game, DeQuell. How'd you enjoy yourself watching that one?
I'm glad I was wrong and you were right, because this was a new improved Colts team. I love the way they were committed to running the football, to take the pressure off of Wentz, try to get him out of harm's way as best you could. However, you still saw the holes with the offense and them stopping games from, the defensive line standpoint. But for the most part, a win is a win. You take them how you get them, because they're hard to come by, and no one likes to start 0-4, which the Colts were able to avoid. This is definitely something to build off of, and we talked a little bit beforehand. Everyone played well. They were able to create some turnovers. Defense were playing smothering type defense, and it was good that I was wrong and you were right, and the Colts got a win. So that's what's most important.
Oh, yeah, the win is so huge. Starting off 0-3 and all the injuries and the Wentz situation and stuff, like it just looked like the team was digging themselves a hole into the season. And once you get too deep in that hole, it's really difficult to climb out of it. How does a win, even though it's 4 weeks in, is that going to be able to help them maybe get on track for the rest of the season, do you think?
Heck yeah, because we spoke on it briefly last week. When you're in the locker room where you haven't won a game, those side chatters start to creep up. And as a coach and as a player, you hate that. And when that starts to happen, everyone becomes a coach. Every player becomes a coach at that point. If they weren't able to win this game, where everyone knows how to fix the problems and this is the issue, and other issues start to evolve. So yes, this was a huge win for the Colts, the coaches, the players, everyone involved, because what goes into a week is a lot. It's a lot of preparation, a lot of long hours. So I was happy to see this team finally get in that win column. Obviously, they got a tough test coming up, but they beat a football team. Again, with all the injuries and all the what ifs going into this game. Carson was able to play. He was still able to. I got a lot of respect for that guy, man. He stands in the pocket. We talk about it weekly. He stands in the pocket. He's still able to deliver those throws, and he's getting hit nonstop. He's a tough guy. And every week I watch him, I gain more and more respect for how he plays the game. And it should speak volumes to and resonate throughout that locker room. Hey, we may not be playing where we want to be right now, but we did get a win. I'm still here. I'm playing hurt, and I'm still giving you my best effort week in and week out from Carson Wentz. I love it.
Oh, yeah. So Carson Wentz yesterday, if you didn't see the stat line, 74 of 32, 75% completion percentage.
Yes.
That's huge. 2 touchdowns, no turnovers.
No turnovers. Yes.
He's had 1 interception, and that was on that one Aaron Donald play on Jack Doyle on the shuffle pass.
Sure.
And then week 1, I think he had a strip sack against Seattle. So, honestly, I think he's doing really well so far. Given the circumstances that he's been under, he looks so much better out there this week against Miami, being able to shrug off defenders, take off, run for first downs, things that now there was obvious he still wasn't to his normal self, but he had enough of himself to be able to make plays when under duress, and that's a good sign.
Yeah, it seemed to me watching that football game that he's kind of embraced the role of this team and what's in front of him, right? It's like, listen, when I signed up in the offseason, this was supposed to be, I was supposed to be clean in the pocket, all these good things. But we all know every season is different. It seemed like between Wentz and this offense and Frank Wright, they settled in. It was like, listen, what can we do to play efficiently on the offensive side of the ball? And in turn, they had going into this game, the Colts hadn't played with much of a lead in 4 games. And so this was the first time this team was able to play with the lead And we were able to see this team kind of lean on, Jonathan Taylor in this run game. He had over 100 yards. That helps. Any quarterback will tell you that takes a huge burden off of their shoulders and their arms. So I think he's embracing that role. And I think offensively, there was a great game plan implemented, and the defense fed off of it. Still opportunistic. They were still able to create turnovers. And again, I'll say it every week, Darius Leonard, he is always around the football. I see you right. Just always, and great football players always find a way to be around the football, and they benefit off of others making plays. And we're witnessing that. And he's becoming, we talked about it in the past, your guys who are your productive guys and your leaders you're paying a lot of money to, they have to step up in these moments where your team is struggling. He's proven it. That D-line, I thought Eberflus came up with a great game plan to just smother what the Miami Dolphins, were doing offensively. I'll say this last point, and I'll let you speak. You asked me last time about who had the advantage, right? Was it the Colts playing against a Jacoby Brissett, or Brissett against the Colts, a team that he was very familiar with? Well, that question was answered. It clearly was the Colts and Frank Wright, because they knew him through and through. Everyone's excited the Colts were able to win a football game and just get that nasty loss taste out of their mouths.
Yeah, we were talking about that right before we came on here about Jacoby Brissett. The stat line and the score does not state how badly the Colts were defeating Miami. In the beginning of the fourth quarter, when the Colts made the score 20-3, Miami had less than 100 of total offensive yards, right? Brissett had like 67 yards passing. The run game was like 20 or 30 yards. It wasn't until the Colts defense was like, or Eberflus was like, all right, it's late in the fourth quarter. We got a 3-score lead. We're going to kind of go a little bit into the, kind of prevent defense. And then Brissett was able to throw downfield and kind of make big plays.
I always hated that as a player. Anytime you got a comfortable, cushiony lead, you would, coaches start to call a less aggressive game, which I get it. They're playing the clock as opposed to the score. And as a player, I hated that, Lawrence. I absolutely hated it, because you were playing soft zone, and now a quarterback is able to pick, stand in the pocket comfortably, just dink and dunk the ball down the field. It works, but as a player being competitive, I hated that. I hated that crap. So when I watched that game and just, you're giving them new life, and you just never know in today's game, the way the game is played, but it worked out this time. So I got there's no need for me to question it. It works out. And, it was really good, because that defense was smothering. And, granted, Jacoby Brissett isn't the most fleet of foot, so to move him off his spot was a win every time you saw him move outside of the pocket to his left or to his right. So I thought they did a phenomenal job of game planning and executing that game plan.
Oh, I Bleav so as well. Now, in this game, there was quite a bit going on back there. Now, Jacoby was only sacked 3 times, and he was a strip fumble. That was the play with Grover Stewart. He didn't even strip the ball. He was pinned ball so much.
Right.
Brissett was by the defenders, because there was so many defenders around him that he ended up just losing grasp of the football, and it came out, and Darius picked it up and took off with the ball. Right. There was multiple times where the Colts was able to get a lot of pressure. Kamoko Ture had 2 sacks and 2 tackles for loss in this game. And we were talking about how the Indianapolis Colts earlier in the season, their younger, all those second-round picks that Chris Ballard had invested in their defensive ends over the course of the last 3-4 years, that one of them or 2 of them really needed to step up in this game. And Kamoko Ture really stepped up and got some pressure and got some finishing sacks. And that was huge as well in this game.
Yeah, you have to, Chris Ballard, I've always been a huge fan of his, of how he's been able to build the team through the draft. Darius Leonard being one of those guys who arguably is one of the, best linebackers in the league. So you love to see those young draft picks kind of flourish and step into their own role and help this team win and be the guys that are the guys you can count on. So that's always great when you can have contributors from your high draft picks. That's what you want. That's ideal situation. I think that they just have to feed off of this moment. You have to use this momentum and get ready to play an even better and more efficient football game this upcoming week, because every week from here on out is going to be a test. It doesn't get any easier. The pressure's not going to, whatever corrections you didn't correct the previous week, you better Bleav you're going to see it from an offensive standpoint and a defensive standpoint. So I agree with you on that it was very refreshing to see some of these young guys make some plays.
The red zone offense for the Indianapolis Colts have been horrible through the first 3 games.
Yes.
This week they went to their big guys, and specifically a tight end, Mo Alley-Cox. Yes, he only had 3 catches, but he had 42 yards and 2 touchdowns. Mo Alley-Cox is a 6'7", 260-pound tight end.
Right. He's a glorified tackle.
Yeah.
You can say he's a tackle.
Being he's like 6'6" and 260, how difficult is that to cover him in space?
You can't cover him. Or a guy my size, I'm 6 foot. You can't get around that big body. His long arms. And again, I thought he had some very pivotal plays, some big chunk yardages that we needed that we didn't expect from him. He's a big target. And to answer your question, in the red zone, he is a mismatch. There's no one as tall, as long as he is in that red area. And I think this is something that we need to look into. Put him on the field. I know he's a great blocking tight end, but heck, man, he's shown that he could show up when he needs to. I know we got Jack Doyle, who's one of my favorite players on the Colts. But
who had a pivotal 3rd down and long conversion in the 4th quarter, by the way. Sorry for interrupting you.
No. Jack has been that's who Jack Doyle is. And like I said, I told Jack him, personally when I was there, how much of a fan I was of him. And obviously you have him, his consistency, but Alley-Cox, you have to find a way to get him more touches or more targets. Just targets in the red area, just to, as a defense watching that, you see a guy that's so tall and, it's hard he boxes you out, as like a basketball term. And if you put it in his catch radius, he's a pro. He should come down with it. So he's definitely, I would hate to be matched up against a guy of his size if I was still playing right now. There was no way. I would probably call a timeout or something. Because that will be 6 every time, and I can admit that. I can admit it.
Man. So you touched on the run game, how the Colts kind of leaned on that a little bit, or pretty heavily actually. Jonathan Taylor had 16 carries, 103 yards. Yes. But to be fair, like 4 of those carries in the 4th quarter, they were just run up the middle and, eating clock, get a yard, maybe 2,
Sure.
His average was closer to 8 until they were, eating clock. Marlon Mack, the guy who just came out, we just heard the news last week that they were, they mutually agreed to get a trade. Marlon Mack comes in for Taylor in the 4th quarter and gets 10 carries. What are your thoughts on Mack? Because a lot of people were like, you don't play Mack. You're trying to trade him. He might get hurt. But in my opinion, if you're wanting to do Mack a favor because of what he's done for you in the past, and I've said this, give the man a little bit of opportunity to show himself on film what he's still able to do, because he's coming off that Achilles injuries, and some teams might be a little worried about that,
Right.
And I thought him coming in the 4th quarter, making some really good film out there, made some good plays, showing that he still has good lateral quickness, which is huge for a running back, especially, like I said, after the injury that he had.
Yeah, sure. I think it's important that you play him. I mean, the better he plays, the better his trade value goes up.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point, this guy a few years ago, he was the guy. He was in the backfield with Frank Gore, and he was a change of pace back. I think he can still play and help this team. However, this team the running back situation has become crowded. But I think you play him. And he's shown, on another note, his professionalism. It isn't easy for a guy to once be the guy or the guy in waiting, and to all of a sudden be drafted over, and now these other two guys are getting the bulk of the carries, and now they're the focal point of your running game and passing game and what have you. So it's extremely difficult to be in his position. Obviously he's getting paid handsomely to play the position and all of that. We can all agree on that. But, I think you have to play him. He can still help you, with Carson Wentz and the O-line struggles and not having a consistent group week in and week out. You lean on these guys. And again, I'll go back to my original point. You play him because in his mind, every opportunity he gets, he understands they're probably going to trade me at some point. And if, one team doesn't want me, there's 31 other teams that are looking and watching the film and grading, the running back position and every other position on the field. So I think it's very important, if he's healthy, let's show the other teams, hey, this guy is mobile. He can still run. He can still help us. But we have two guys that we're counting on right now. There's no point for us to keep three running backs. So I agree. I don't agree with the sentiment of, don't play him and keep him healthy. Listen, you play running back. Throw him out there. He's only going to help himself, which in turn will help the Colts and their trade value.
Absolutely. And let's not forget, this is a 17-game season this year, 18 weeks, not including the playoffs. This is a longer season than what teams are used to. Being able to have these amount of running backs that are able to play and put them in, and that's going to
a luxury.
Yeah, it's going to keep them more fresh throughout the season. When you get down to the 15th, 16th, 17th game or in the playoffs, their legs might be a little bit more they might be a little less beat up when you get into the play. If you get into the playoffs, I'm just saying, but that's just like any position, right? I mean, in on a team, if you got a luxury to be able to kind of switch guys in and out and keep people healthy and fresh, and it keeps them playing very well throughout the game and later into the season.
So, what becomes an issue is the whole, I want the ball. It's only one football, and you have to manage, three. And if we could keep it in the running back room, you have to manage three personalities who they can be the greatest guys ever, but you're still competitive. You still feel like you can help a team. So you have to manage that. And most teams, that's difficult if you don't have a guy in that running back room and a head coach who can manage all of that and not have any issues kind of come up, because I'm pretty sure there's some tension in that running back room. Marlon Mack, we haven't heard anything that points to that. I'm not trying to create a story here, but I've been in situations before where, myself was asked to take a less of a role when I wasn't ready after making a Pro Bowl year. And there's nothing you can do as a player. You just have to deal with it, not let it affect your preparation, how you play. And, because everyone's watching, everyone's grading, how you're going to respond, based on things not going as well for you. So there's so many different elements to, that dilemma. But again, I'll agree with your point. If you have three guys, more than capable of guys, to get the job done, this is a long season. You do play the running back position. Guys, there's one guarantee. We have this saying in the NFL, there's one guarantee about the NFL is you're going to be injured at some point. So you deal with things throughout the course of the year. And the way this team has been playing offensively, you need all the weapons you could possibly have. I don't know what the status of T.Y. Hilton, but I can tell you this, Michael Pittman Jr. has emerged as a guy you can consistently, count on. And we'll see. This is a long season. Hopefully these guys that we've had banged up, Quentin Nelson, these guys come back and then they hit the ground running. And that's what we all hope for. But in the meantime, you got to find a way to get themselves out of this strange hole they're in right now and collect some wins here in the near future.
Yeah, I believe that as well, especially with the fact that we have a lot of players that, in my opinion, because of injuries, they're not playing, and it's not because of the injury, it's because of lack of playing time, practice time, that they're not playing to their fundamentals. Like Xavier Rhodes yesterday, second game back this year, he got 2 PI calls on deep passes, right?
Yes.
That's a bad. Is that am I right in that? Is that a situation where he just hasn't been practicing and his fundamentals and all that is a little shaky and rusty?
You're spot on. Any player that's been out for a period of time, and I'll answer this question. So you look around the league, you look at Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was an MVP last year and off of an NFC championship game, and yet he missed all of the offseason workouts, and they had a slow start. So not only does it take practice reps, it takes game reps to get into that, to build that callus, to get in that routine of the speed of the game, the physicality of the game. So it definitely plays a part. Now, every season, regardless of all of that, you still start off slow, until you get your conditioning now. Because I can imagine playing the defensive back in the National Football League in today's game. Like, I'm sure he was tired as I don't know what, just being able to move around and putting your body through different movements that you can't duplicate on the practice field. So yeah, it takes you a bit of time to, and that's when I saw those calls, I was like, you know what, I'm not upset about that. That means he's figuring it out. He's being aggressive enough to kind of, get in routine quicker. So yeah, that's definitely a correlation to, him not having the reps and not being available in the practice reps. And, it takes game reps to get in game shape to be game ready.
Well, that could be a problem for the Colts.
Yeah, this is right. This is a Colts issue, right? This is a Colts issue is when you don't have enough practice time to build your body up to, the stresses of running and being conditioning. And then when you go out and play, you're playing at a different level. The speed is just, your body and your mind is just off balance, and injuries creep up. And this is what the Colts have been, and unfortunately, they're in the position they're in. It doesn't get any easier, but this is, every year is so different from, any previous year, and this is just a testament of it. These young guys are now dealing with the reality of the National Football League. It is difficult to win week in and week out and year in and year out. Doesn't matter that you have the same team. If guys are healthy, guys are not healthy, you start off high, you don't start off high. I mean, all these things play a huge factor and contributing factors in how well your team does.
So the Colts run defense, oh boy, did they step up.
Yeah, I was happy for that one. I was very excited for that.
Because after seeing what, Mr. Henry did to him last week, and then this week they give up around 40 yards total on the ground and only give up around 2.8 yards per carry. That's absolutely
winning football.
Phenomenal.
That's winning football. That's winning. I don't know if I've ever been a part of a team to only give up less than 40 yards total, and that's including the quarterback runs.
Yeah.
So if this team is going to get themselves out of this hole, that defense has to step up, continue to be opportunistic, creating turnovers. You take care of the football, and your players start to make plays. The guys that you count on, and it's showing that, or not Quentin Nelson, but Darius Leonard, he's emerging as that leader. He's a leader on the field. But in my mind, the most productive guys are your guys to lead you, whether you're winning or losing. So I'm very, very encouraged about this defense performance last week.
So I'm going to bring this up, and this is a situation where I feel like some fans are harder on players than even coaches are. I had a little argument on Twitter yesterday with Mike about Michael Pittman Jr. And he called him Butterfingers. The fan did, right? And then he had a bunch of people stack on saying, yeah, he's dropping too many passes. I go in, I look at the film, I look at the stat lines. His stat says 1 drop, right? But apparently what everybody is mad about is he was signed to get contested catches. That was his wheelhouse, right? Okay. And they're like, well, he gets both hands on it. It should be a catch. But I mean,
fans are hard.
That is difficult to if you got a defensive back or a linebacker or somebody draped over you, slapping across your arms, even if you get both hands on it, that is a really difficult thing to maintain control and catch a football.
Yeah, fans could be tough at times. Trust me, I know all about it playing in Cleveland. I know all about it. But it is. It's a difficult thing to do, and those guys on the other side of the ball, they get paid as well.
Yeah.
So it's one of those 50-50 balls that's why they call them 50-50 balls. You don't come up with them most of the time. And so I thought he's been, for the most part, his impact this year has been as needed.
Yeah.
Obviously, we would like all our receivers not to ever drop a ball, but you know what? The great Jack Doyle, he does it sometimes, and we love him. We love him because the good outweighs the bad. Fans can be hard on guys, and especially so when you're not winning. Like everything gets over magnified and over, analyzed. And that's a natural human reaction, but that's difficult. It's difficult. It's difficult as heck, man. I don't know how some of these receivers are able to have such strong just presence. And, again, DBs get paid too. So I'm not going to condemn him on that. I think he's been good for this football team, especially while T.Y. has been hampered with his injuries. And someone has to emerge. And those are the guys that you look at it, given the opportunity. He's given an opportunity, and I think he's living up to that, for the most part.
Oh, yeah, I Bleav that as well. But, okay, so
you got into a spat with a fan, huh? You
absolutely,
really
like one of my followers. Yeah. And I wasn't being disrespectful to the person.
Was it a particular game? Was it a particular game?
He's just saying in general, that's what they do.
I need to go back and take a hard look at that because nothing really stands out.
No, me neither. I remember 1 drop, and that's it. And the other ones, when it comes to contested catches, a contested catch is a contested catch. It's called that for a reason, I mean, come on. Like you say, the defensive guys are paid too, ladies and gentlemen. He's not out there just pitch catch, in the off season or something here. Otherwise, Darius Butler's going to have a word or two to talk with you about.
Right. Oh man. And so let me ask you, is it by watching this past game against the Dolphins? Listen, a win is a win. Are you encouraged by this football team moving forward? Did the last 3 weeks with this previous game kind of correct some of the wrongs in your eyes of some of their struggles from the weeks prior? Do you feel like this team has made a bump in play to get them through and get them out of this losing hole they're in?
Yes and no. There was positives and negatives to take out of this game. You talk about how winning covers up a lot of mistakes, right? And you watch the game, you get excited, and you completely forget about those things that what went bad in that game that shouldn't have happened. Miscues. There was so many penalties in this game against the Colts. There was pass interferences left and right. There was offensive. Zach Pascal had 2 offensive holding calls.
Yeah, that never happens. That
never happened.
Never.
And there was a bunch of no false starts, but there was just a ton of penalties that I didn't like seeing, and they were penalties that shouldn't be called, right? That ended up putting the Colts in 3rd and long situations or 1st and forever, that's just shooting yourself in the foot. So penalties are a situation that I didn't like. Obviously, the offensive line still has some problems in areas, obviously. And they're only going to get worse until we get some of these guys healthy. I don't see. I'm sorry, but there's certain players that only have a limit to how well they can play, and you can't expect them to get
that was
better.
kindly putting it. Right. No, I agree with it. Like some guys just they are who they are.
Mm-hmm.
They've maxed out their potential of who they are, and they can't get any better.
Yeah.
And I think you hit it on the head. That's what we're witnessing, or it's showing us how great Quentin Nelson really is, and some of these other guys. So how much they mean from a communication standpoint, because that's one thing I noticed is this team is playing like a bad football team, which the record says who they are. Mm-hmm. But I just go back. I can't help but go back to my Cleveland days when I wasn't on a lot of very good football teams, and those are the like tales of a bad football team, inconsistent, bad penalties, and big gains that get negated through holding calls, and just bad football being played. And you mentioned some of the calls, a receiver getting a holding call. I mean, how often do we hear that? And let alone once, but twice. Yeah. Those are signs of just an inconsistent and immature football team. But I like what you said before as you alluded to some of the things that concern you was winning overlooks some of the bad tendencies of a football team. And I think that's so important. I think that goes to your experience, because you better believe, the Colts are trying to iron out, okay, I know we won everyone is feeling good about themselves. However, there's a lot of stuff we need to clean up. And if we don't clean it up, we're not good enough to overcome and play from behind, which going into that game last week, I think they had led, I saw a stat during the game, they had only led just under 3 minutes.
It was the first time all season that the Colts offense was on the field with the lead.
There we go. Yes. I mean, that's difficult. That's difficult to even have a stat like that, So it's just indicative of just all the issues this team has had. And hopefully this they can clean some things up. You got to give yourself a shot. If you don't clean these things up, you don't give yourself a shot against a really good football team.
So I do have a question, since we're on that kind of general direction going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a win like this, but there was a lot of sloppy plays that led to some sloppy penalty calls and things of that nature, does the team overlook that on the next film room, or is that something that is like hammered down? Hey, there's a bunch of stuff here we need to clean up.
Yeah, I'm sure they didn't get a See You Wednesday. See You Wednesday, I'm sure you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
When you win on Sunday, coach tells you normally you come in on Monday, you break the film down. It's official Tuesday. Tuesday is official day off. No, this team, no. To answer your question directly, they're hammering down. They're hammering down on all the MEs, mental errors that took place, the penalties. At some point, when you've occurred so many, just the sloppy play on both sides of the ball, there becomes some, whether at practice, I've been on teams where if you're a DB, if calling, now you have the refs actually, calling holding calls and defensive PI or all these different things. So guys are familiar with it and able to ask questions for the refs. So you don't, do this when it counts. So there's going to be a lot of, problem solving going on in that building. But yes, that is not overlooked when you have a football team that has had such sloppy play, but you're still able to win a game. Now, Frank Wright and that team, they're definitely, trying to figure out how they can correct those things for sure.
Well, since you're going to be taking off this Thursday, we might as well go ahead and take a quick look to this upcoming week's game.
Yes,
looking at, because it's a big one. It's the final. It's that fifth week. It's that final game of that really rough stretch that the Indianapolis Colts had to run through. 5 games straight of teams who had 10+ wins last season. And that's the Baltimore Ravens, who the Indianapolis Colts last year, we lost to them, but we were, defensively, we dominated them in the first half last year. And then all of a sudden, Lamar Jackson woke up and started throwing the football, and so, but this is a different Ravens team than what it was last year. They don't have that deep running back stable that they have had in years past with Lamar Jackson, with all the IRs, and that is because they're dealing with that on their running back stable, whereas we're dealing with it mainly with our offensive line. What are you looking at coming into this game?
You look at, first and foremost, you look at, okay, what do the Ravens do well? And we all know they've been hit with the injury bug in their running back room, but Lamar Jackson has used more of his legs and been effective for them to win games. And if my memory serves me correctly, they just tied an NFL record of 42 games with a 100-yard rusher. So we know who they are. We know what they want to do. Lamar Jackson, they want to run the football and stay committed to it. Lamar Jackson is going to be a huge part of that, and obviously have that run set up the pass. So it makes it an easier throw, easier read for Lamar and that football team. However, when you look at what we do, I don't know what we do well. I don't know. This team has just been all over the place. I don't know. What I do know is you can't go into you can't play a team like the Baltimore Ravens and shoot yourself in the foot and have sloppy play with penalties and so forth and so forth. So that's one area you won't have a chance in hell if you give the ball back to Lamar Jackson and a running team that's going to control the possession, control the clock rather. You don't give yourself a chance. But I'm looking for a dogfight. I think the Colts defense, they have a lot to build off of. You see Derrick Henry one week, and now you shut, the running game down from Miami, and now it's a perfect segue to a perfect test for you to match up against the Baltimore Ravens heavy run first team. So again, I'm excited to see how this team is going to battle. However, I just think Baltimore is just, they're better polished right now at the moment. I really do.
So I'm looking at the Baltimore's team stats right now for this season, and Lamar Jackson has got 280 yards rushing already in 4 games as a quarterback. Holy crap. 6.6 yard per attempt.
Yeah, he's picking up slack. He's picking up slack from that running game. And you know what? That's what he does best. However, you get up. If the Colts, we know this, the easy formula of negating and stopping a team like the Baltimore Ravens, you have to build an early lead early in this football team. And because they're not built to play from behind. They just aren't. They've always been that way, but somehow Lamar's been able to pull out his magical wand and come up with big throws or big plays at, the biggest moments of the game. But this is going to be a tough one for the Colts. This is going to be very, very difficult.
I think this is a situation. I mean, I think the Colts are kind of built to play defensively because of the zone scheme they have and the speed that they have on defense. Right now, like last year, even when the Ravens came back to beat the Colts, the Ravens had the least amount of rushing yards and the least rushing yards per carry of the entire Lamar Jackson era. I think they had like 110 yards rushing total as a team, and they were under I think it was like 3 yards a carry, in that game. So I still expect the Colts to run that same kind of zone scheme with having one of the linebackers kind of, obviously, spying Lamar. But Lamar Jackson this year, 60% completion percentage. He's got about 1,100 yards passing, which isn't too bad in 4 games. That's actually really, really good through 4 games. That's over 250 yards a game.
Right.
Four touchdowns, 3 interceptions.
Yes. He's turning the ball over at a clip that, is not what you would want. It's not a winning formula for from a team standpoint.
And 4 fumbles. He's turned the ball over 7 times this year.
That is big. That's giving me a little bit more confidence for this Colts defense, because they've been able to turn the ball over at a high clip, and they've just found
not
ways
40 a season yet.
Not 40 a season, no, but it helps knowing that your team can create some turnovers, and heck, they got a muff punt, last week, so things like that happen when you start to play a little bit better as a team, and you start to smother teams. But that gives me a lot of confidence. Wow, I didn't know that 7 turnovers from a quarterback position. That is not a good sign. Not a good sign at all. But these teams are built somewhat similarly. We can run the football as effective. If all our guys were healthy, we could. I'm confident. I think we both would agree we could run the football at a high clip if all our guys were up and running and didn't miss time and so forth. But that's wishful thinking. But and you look at the other side, they obviously everyone knows what they want to do, and it's just hard. It's just difficult to play a team like this. Lawrence, anytime I played a team that ran the RPO scheme, I hated it, because you're not playing. It slows you down from a linebacker standpoint when you play the game so fast, because you have all these moving parts. You have misdirection, you have flash motion from a receiver, you have not only the running back is a threat running the football, but the quarterback, he can pull it. So it makes you slow down with your instincts and your process of how the play unfolds. So I hated it. I hated playing these teams because it breaks all of your rules as a defender, and you have to learn how to play within this confinement that it just seems so unnatural. So if the Colts can somehow have a receiver, I don't know who they're going to play. You know what teams do, right? So if you're playing a Lamar Jackson, you'll grab a receiver from the scout team, and he's running RPO, so you can kind of feel his speed and all those different things. So that's another reason why I hated the week playing an RPO style offense, because it's unnatural,
And you're tired by the time the game starts, because you've been running your butt off all week trying to chase down a wide receiver.
The things that because Lamar has Lamar Jackson has receivers, type speed. So I just hated it. I really did. I really did. I hated it. I just hope we were able to turn the ball over and win and score early, so they can abandon it.
The Baltimore Ravens defense, they've had some injuries over there, especially in their secondary.
Ooh, the secondary. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. This is the same football team. No, I'll let you speak.
Oh, no, I'm just saying, defensively, this team is generally one of those man coverage type defenses, like to use man coverage a lot and send a lot of wild defensive looks and blitzes and things of that nature to try to confuse an offensive line and a quarterback and get turnovers themselves, but because of the injuries in their secondary, that hasn't been really playing to the effect that it normally does year after year. But I don't expect them to change it up much, especially with a Carson Wentz that still is dealing with 2, sprained ankles, and an offensive line, that has been dealing with injuries and not playing the best football in the NFL right now, like we're used to seeing.
Right.
Baltimore, I expect to see a lot of exotic play calls come in.
They major in that what do we call it? Zone pressures. It's like a zone man concept where when you send pressure, it looks like zone, but the way coaches teach it, if he's in your zone, you man him. He becomes your man. So they've measured in that style of defense. for many, many years. Any coordinator comes in, it's like, no, we run this style of, this is the brand of football that the Baltimore Ravens play, regardless of, and you're right, they've had some issues on the back end. However, before the season, they were a team that some probably considered, to be in the AFC Championship game. But now, because of their injury situation on the back end, it has affected how it hasn't shown up as much right now, but they will have exotic pressures thrown at this offensive line, because that's one area they're struggling. When I say, they're having a difficult time picking up games, it's not often that you see a team with 4 or 5 guys rushing that's running in one direction. Each guy, if there's we call it a 2-man game. So the tackles and the ends, they run games where one guy goes first, one guy goes underneath, the other guy goes up the field. It's so many different moving parts, and this is where, because of the musical chairs, if you will, at the deep offensive line standpoint, there's no constant communication. There's always a different player here and there, so it makes it more difficult to pick up what Baltimore is going to bring at them. They're going to have the exotic, whether it be from the nickel, whether it be from corners, interior pressure up the middle, to get Carson Wentz moving. And they've just had a difficult time. The Colts offense have had a difficult time just picking up different movement and different delayed pressures from the opposing teams. And that's one area that scares me. But if you can run the football, control the clock a bit, try to mirror that game plan that was successful last week, you have a shot.
All right. Yeah, I think so too. I mean, running against this Baltimore defense can be done. We did it last year. We could do it again. As long as, I don't know, as long as the offensive line continues to make their strong pushes. We saw against Miami where there was holes finally that Jonathan Taylor was able to see and take advantage of and rip off.
You and I could have ran through those holes.
Right. I mean, they were we may not have went the 28 yards for a touchdown, but yeah, he was breaking shoestring tackles, then outrunning defensive backs down the sideline. But I ain't doing that.
No. Is there anyone that's been your not MVP, if you will, but anyone that you didn't expect to? I guess that's difficult because I kind of know the answer to that. Anyone that stands out to you for the Colts that's been playing well that we typically kind of overlook? Anyone comes to mind? Well, I just try to ask myself the question. I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I can answer that question.
One player, but he didn't play last week, and that's Rock Ya-Sin.
Got it.
I think Rock Ya-Sin has played very well this season, especially for a guy that has been hit for a lot of PIs last year and the year before, being a little too physical, and then getting burnt occasionally. And this year so far, he's given up through 3 games. He's given up 4 catches at 6 yards a catch. And he's been on the field 80% of the time in those 3 games. Now this last week, he was a scratch, not a healthy scratch. He was injured. But I think he has played surprisingly well. I was hoping to see an uptick in his performance, being this was his 3rd year as in the NFL, and it's been a lot better than what I expected. So yeah, that's one. I thought Andrew Sendejo played well yesterday. That's a guy, a backup safety, came in for Kari Willis. Thought he played very, very well. So especially in the run game, being able to come up in the box and help out there occasionally. Kenny Moore stepped up
Kenny Moore, he's always been a consistent fireball out there, man. And it's so rare that a guy his size, or a guy just in the secondary for that matter, who are really great at blitzing. I think he has a knack for just finding his way. And a lot of guys turn that down. A lot of guys from the secondary standpoint, they don't want to rush off the edge and run in between those tackles because they know one hand on their shoulder pad and they're flying out the club. So I think he plays the game really well. I think you could tell his football IQ is really strong, and he only gets better with time. But I really love the way he's able to play behind the line of scrimmage, which is rare. We can have that combination of cover skills and being able to blitz and play behind the line of scrimmage.
Especially like you say, him being that. I hate to use the word slight, but he is even for a defensive back. He is a little dude.
Yeah, he's a little dude, man. But he's got a ball of. He's a lion out there, man. He plays a ton of heart, and he's fearless.
Yeah, absolutely.
He really is fearless, and he stands. And he's always stood out to me. And he's just been a fixture, man. I love the way he plays the game. I've never had a chance to meet him, but I would love to just sit down and just pick his brain. He just seems like that guy.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, I mean, when you get cut, undrafted free agent, and the New England Patriots grab you up, and then the Patriots cut you. That probably puts a fire under you, because the Patriots, they know how to find good defensive backs. They've always been able to get good defensive backs. It's their offensive line and their defensive backs is what I think is their best at evaluating.
Yeah,
what I've noticed.
Right.
And then go ahead.
They pick smart guys. They high football. The one guy who I played with, and we brought his name up a few. You brought his name up today. It was Darius Butler. He was drafted by the Patriots, and he was arguably, I played with a ton of guys on the back end. He was probably one of the smartest guys I've ever played with, because he not only knew his job, he knew all the secondary rotations. He knew what the safeties were doing, and he also knew what I was doing, and he knew somewhat what the O-line was doing. Why we called what we called. So he was one of the smartest guys. So every guy I've ever played with through New England, they value the IQ standpoint a little bit. It weighed a little bit more for them than obviously the athletic ability, which I think everyone has. And I think that's the biggest kind of hiccup. Some guys just go for the tall, big, strong, fast guys, and they can just pick and plug. We can put them anywhere. No. It's the smart guys, man, that figure it out, and Kenny Moore, I feel like he's one of those guys.
Well, I mean, his intelligence, I'm going back to Darius Butler here. I think it was that intelligence and understanding the game as a whole, which really helped him kind of move when it was at that point in his career, when the coaching staff stepped up to him and said, "Hey, look, I know that you're a defensive back. We've had you play a lot of nickel back with us. Can you step back and play free safety for us now?" And to have that intelligence to be able to step from, transition from that cornerback to that free safety. And it was seamless. It seemed like to me, it seemed like he was still making all the plays that we were seeing from him at cornerback, but back at the safety position. And I think you're right. I think that understanding the game as a whole really, really helps him in that transition.
The more you can do. I never forget Willie McGinnis, who was, I think he has a record of career sacks in the playoffs. And he finally was, his name was on the first ballot for the Hall of Fame nominees this year. I played with him in Cleveland. I was a rookie. He was year 13 and, Super Bowl champion, the whole deal. And he always would say this saying was, as a player, the more you can do, the more you understand, the longer you will play in this league and the more money you will make. So that's always stood out to me. And just to kind of button up what you're saying about Darius Butler, he's always been able to be interchangeable. And when you're interchangeable, I think that adds just more value to, you as a player and your longevity in this league.
Yeah. Well, we're closing in on 55 minutes for this. So this has been really good stream, because honestly, it doesn't feel like it's been an hour.
No, I was like, wait, what just happened?
Where'd all the time go? But real quick thoughts about this week, this upcoming Sunday's game. Do you think the Colts have a shot at winning? Should Colts fans get their hopes up coming into week 5?
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll be, around that middle of that third quarter, I think the game will be close, but I think, this team, for them to just completely wipe out the sloppy play is going to be very difficult to do overnight. When I say sloppy play, the penalties, the holding calls, things of that nature, that's going to be a lot to overcome with a solid foundational football team like the Ravens. I think it will be close at some point, but I do think it's hopeful for the Colts fans to get up for this game. However, I just think Baltimore they're going to be too much for them. I think they're playing better football at this time right now. I think in a few weeks, if the Colts can continue to build off of their success last week, I think they find their rhythm. I think right now they're just not completely in sync right now with all the injuries and the breakdown of protection of your quarterback and those things. And I think that there's definitely, excitement to get up for this team playing the Ravens. I just think the Ravens just a better football team right now today.
When I looked at the schedule when it came out, I looked at the Ravens game and I was like, this can be a revenge game from, the last couple times the Colts have faced the Ravens. And of course, I didn't expect the injuries issues that we have been suffering. But as I look at both teams and I realize there is definitely a chance the Colts can win this game. I think if they continue to play if they continue not to turn the football over on the offense and get turnovers with their defense, I think that could generate big time kind of energy, Turnovers are very contagious throughout the entire team, right?
Yes.
And we saw last week the penalties were there. The mistakes were there, but they were still able to move the football even with those mistakes and score 27. Honestly, they should have had 34 points on the board, but, they stopped with a minute and a half left inside the 10-yard line, 1st and goal, and they were like, what? We'll be the big guys that just knee this out.
Which I had a problem. Like, listen, your football team is struggling. Forget these moral victories, man. I know you won the game. I'm working on my craft. I'm showing these guys we're here to win, and we're here to win. However, we're not here to have gentlemen's respect towards the end of the game. No, that's just my take on that.
Well, I mean, Bill Belichick's take was step on the throat.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically what he did. If he was winning by 50, he wanted to win by 75.
Yeah. You're only helping your football team, gain that confidence. And again, I say that to say this: with our luck, someone would have rolled in that, so you have to roll the dice on that regard. So I get it. I get both sides. But in the moment as a player, the energy is there. You got some momentum going. Let's finish this thing out. Let's finish it out.
To finish the thought, I think the Colts have a shot at winning against Baltimore. But like I said, they're going to need to get a few turnovers. Like we talked about earlier, Lamar's already given the ball over 7 times this year, as opposed to only scoring 4 touchdowns. Wait, hold on. No, I don't think there's 4 touchdowns total. I didn't look at the running. Hold on. Let me get back through here and look at this because I am positive he's got more than 4 total touchdowns. He's got No, he's got 6 total. He's got 2 on the ground and 4 through the air. He has more turnovers than he does touchdowns.
Wow.
That gives me a lot of hope right there.
Yeah, there's opportunity. There's opportunity.
Colts are going to have to really take advantage of that. And I think the style of defense that they play, I think they can. And then offensively, like I said, just don't turn the ball over. I get that in the Tennessee game, the Colts won the turnover ratio and still lost. But this is a different week. That's something that generally does not happen.
No. Right. 3 turnovers. Good chance you win that game. Great chance you win that football game. But yeah, the Colts defense, they've been able to, like I agree. Listen, I don't know what the percentage is, but when you don't turn the ball over and you create turnovers, that percentage goes all the way up. It's staggering percentage. So there is a chance, no doubt. I think every week, anyone can win any given Sunday, and that's the beauty of this game. And heck, when I was with the Browns, we beat the Patriots one year with Tom Brady. So anything could be done. Anything could be done.
Absolutely. Well, thanks everybody for watching. Appreciate each and every one of you. If you're watching on YouTube, please smash that like button, hit subscribe if you're not subscribed, and tag the notification bell. If you're listening to this on the audio podcast, wherever you listen to audio podcasts, make sure you download, share this out to your favorite social media. Help us out a little bit here. That way we can maybe grow a little bit and get our information out to more Colts fans or just general NFL fans. Thank you so much. And for myself and DeQuell Jackson, have a good one. Hope everything works out great for you this week. And good luck this Sunday versus the Baltimore Ravens.
Yes. Before we get out of here, I just want to let everyone know, hey, we're in it. I want the Colts to pull this out this weekend. And again, just to piggyback off what you just said, it's going to be tough, but I do think there's a chance, and we're here to support them, however we see fit.
Absolutely. And until next time, I'm Lawrence Owen. That's DeQuell Jackson. Have a good one.
Go Colts.
Go Colts.